Scene one, Apple, take one.
Hey everyone, I'm Shane Borza. Welcome to another episode of Film Notes, the show where I talk to people in the industry about the industry and get their notes on what they've learned and what they're doing so you can all learn about how this industry works. I'm excited to have a new connection here, Jaron Lockridge, who is what I like to call a triple threat, writer, director, producer. I know you have a new film out, and we're going to talk about that because you have a couple of different projects and series. You're also the owner operator of a company which is called Misguided Perceptions Media Group, and all of this is taking place in Tennessee. So a couple of different things I want to dive into, but before we get into the company, Tennessee filmmaking, your projects, tell me, how did you get into working in the industry? Like, did this happen when you were younger? Did you fall into it by accident? Like, how did you become the writer, director, producer you are?
Well, I started off as a writer. It was kind of by accident. I had, I want to say it's maybe my 10th grade year in high school. I needed a class that year, and I was like, what is this theater arts class? Let me just give it a shot. And totally took it on a whim, and got in there and just fell in love with just the arts, everything. Then it was stage plays. So just finding out that I could write and the performing arts and everything, I was just enthralled by it. So I jumped in that way. And this is before YouTube and all that took off to the way it was. So I started off with stage plays, graduated, kind of found out quick that moving to LA to pursue filmmaking or etc. was kind of out of the question. So kind of put it on a side burner, and then technology made it easier to start producing films. And around 2010 or so, I kind of found this little camera. I think it was a Canon GL2 at a pawn shop for like $50. Started playing with it, and it was like, hey, let me make a little movie with this. And it's just naive, jumped out there, made a movie. Didn't know what I was doing, and I think it was my first time. It was like almost 50 minutes. Went out there, shot it myself, filmed it with some friends and family, and made a movie. And I've been hooked ever since. So it's been ever since, I want to say, just 2010 and on. 2016, I would say, professionally or seriously, if I could put it that way. And I've been doing it ever since then.
People that have listened to the show for a while know, so I came to filmmaking later, where like I'd already gone to school and graduated college, and then I came home, and one of my buddy's younger brothers, I just got out of college and he just got out of high school. And I said, what are you doing? He's like, going to film school. And I was like, what's that? So I kind of learned through him going through film school after I was already like an adult and like working and stuff, but I didn't know that that was like an option. So I'm really glad that you had that program in high school to kind of kick you in. But it's also, I love people that have that, can-do attitude where we're just like, let's try it, let's figure it out, let's just jump in and see, because that's really how you learn.
Yeah.
And you then, like you said, 2016 are doing like professionally. So is that where like the company came in? Like, talk to me about what that is, your role with it. I don't know if it's like just you or you have a staff, and is it just you making your own films, or do you like hire out to help other people do other stuff? So talk to me a little about how that got started and what that is.
Yeah, when around 2016, when I decided to really just pursue this thing, still green as can be, no formal training. Everything that I learned is, YouTube and just going out there and trial by fire type stuff. And I decided to make my own production company, Misguided Perceptions Media Group. And I mean, grassroots, just me, my wife, and my brother at the time, and just started going out here making movies. And I mean, at that time, I called myself on my social media the guerrilla filmer, mostly because that was just a way of life, guerrilla filmmaking. I mean, super skeleton crew, working camera, having somebody working sound. And I mean, we just all handling 1,000 jobs basically just to get the films made. And up until recently, that's how I've been doing it, just kind of forming my own system to where with these low budgets and this minimal help that I can make movies and make them at a quality level that's above what I should be able to make, if that makes sense. Just trying to live within my means and be creative within those means to make some pretty quality work. So that's usually just how it's been. Just I've made entire features maybe with just one other person. Like that's just kind of been the way of life here until recently, where I'm able to kind of hire out and get more help behind the scenes. But I always tell people that because I started with this naive ambition, like I did not know that you weren't supposed to do that. Like I didn't know that you were supposed to have all of these people doing these jobs. Like one person isn't supposed to be doing all this and that. And if I had, listened to some people, before I started making films, when I went to film festivals and stuff like that, when they used to look at me like, you doing all this? I probably would have been too scared to do it. But because I was so naive and decided to just jump out there and just make my films this way because I didn't know any better, it kind of gave me this confidence. Because when, other people say you can't run camera and run sound and direct and produce and do this and that, I'm like, well, I kind of been doing that. So, I have a different perspective, and that fear doesn't, I use it as a challenge to make movies, whereas other people are still trying to grasp to that concept now that you can do that. You don't need 500 people behind the camera in order to make a movie. So that's kind of been my thing, just building off of a guerrilla filmmaking aspect and making movies. And although now I'm starting to build a team of people where I can kind of dish some of these jobs to and not bear that load as much, I'm always appreciative of that, because those earlier films, I always say that was my film school, that hands-on learning, going through those issues that I had to deal with and everything that I dealt with making those movies. It just made me even better today, to the point where I know these skills, and anytime I can jump in and lend a hand when I have to.
I was trying to think about where I heard this from. It might have been a film, but it could have just been a story I read where they had the line, because they didn't know it was impossible, they went ahead and did it.
Yeah.
And that just reminded me, like, sometimes the best thing to have is that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, that can do, like, I'll figure it out, I'll do it, or whatever.
Yeah.
I went to film school in Australia and predominantly only worked in indie stuff. And over there, it's a lot like, so there's that like mate culture, like you're just helping your mates out. And, a lot of people are switching hats. It's like, oh, they were the director on that project, and over here they're like a grip, like they don't care. They're just all like, we're in it together, and there are no separated out, like departments or anything. The departments are one person, so you are quite often making a film with like 4 or 5 people, on each side of the camera. But wanted to go back a little bit because, we talked about you're in Tennessee, and one of the things been interesting to me. So this is the 4th season of the show, and predominantly, so I used to live in LA, so I was talking to people I knew, and they were mostly LA folks. Now I've been talking to people like in Texas and Vegas and Canada, Tennessee. Like, I think it's helpful for people to kind of have that enthusiasm and just jump in, but also to have that like example where people are like, oh, you don't have to be in LA to make films. Like, you could be wherever you are and make a film. Like, there's probably other creative people where I am or whatever. So how have you found that, like, the Tennessee hub that you're in has been for you? Are you finding all like local people? Are you bringing people in? Like you mentioned, you started back in 2016. So also maybe over the last like almost 10 years now, how have you seen like an arc around maybe the growth of the company, the growth of like maybe there's just more people making content than there was or whatever. So how is the like Tennessee film hub for you? Is that something you just plugged yourself into and it already existed, or did you have to kind of create some of that?
A little bit of both. In my area, I stay in Jackson, Tennessee, which is kind of in the middle of Memphis and Nashville, two major cities here in Tennessee. And my closest film community per se is in Memphis, which is just a tad over an hour away. And here in my city, like I was the only one. So a lot of the reasons why I had to kind of do a lot of things myself is because I had to. I couldn't afford to house people from Memphis and stuff like that and do it that way. And I started getting closer. Like now, a lot of my collaborators are from Memphis, and I found myself kind of building a nice little community here in Jackson as well, because so many people were of that same mindset when I came out of high school, where like, oh, that's in LA, that's in New York, you know, that's not around here. So a lot of people with interest in acting or getting behind the camera or something like that didn't necessarily believe it was possible without having to go to those spaces. So when people started hearing about me and the news started talking about films or something that I was releasing, I started meeting people along the way, like, hey, I didn't know you were here. I'm interested in doing this and that. And I started building to the point now where I kind of got a great little film community here at home that a lot of, just because people were interested, didn't know it was possible. So they're slowly building, and you're starting to see also, just because it's so easier now to make movies, that you have a lot more content creators out there. And, you know, with Memphis, a lot of people, when productions come here, we had one come here from NBC not too long ago, but it canceled after a season, Bluff City Law, I believe. But you'll have a lot of major productions come to Memphis because of the culture and stuff in Memphis, and shoot on site, but they usually don't last, or when they come, they'll ask for extras or something like that, you know, and bring their own actors in. So you have a lot of people who are in that film community just hungry for projects, and it's breeding this new coming of independent filmmakers out here. And it's kind of exciting to see us grow, because you have a healthy film community in Detroit. You have one in Atlanta, you have one in Mississippi, you have one in New Orleans, Shreveport area. And you're starting to see like a lot of those productions are starting to come this way because of the tax incentives and stuff like that that are going on. So I'll tell anybody, like, right now is the prime time if you want to make a movie. Like, Hollywood is still Hollywood, but you have so many more lucrative spots that are busy in filmmaking right now in other parts of the region where you don't have to go to LA anymore to have a nice film career. And yeah, I'm just focused on building right here where I am. And so far it's trending upward, and you can't ask more than that.
Well, it's great to hear that there's some more pockets that are coming up. And I think, like you mentioned, I mean, when it all comes down to it, it's the old adage, you know, it's called show business, not show friends. You know, it is a business. And a lot of those things like tax incentives, it's going to open up new places for people that and new options for stories, you know. Yes. I mean, I think the big one is, you know, that show Justified, where it's like, oh, this is it's cops and robbers show, but it's down in the holler in the South. Like, everybody loved that show, and it opened up people to go, oh, it doesn't have to be Chicago, New York, LA, Seattle. Like, we can have these same kind of stories, but in like new and different places with like new and different characters, and put different twists on some of these like crime show genres or anything else. So I wanted to ask you, because I was really psyched when I saw your website. You've done like 10 features, and you have a bunch of series. So like, you've done a lot of work in 10 years since 2016. So first of all, like what have you been making? Because that's like a feature a year, you know, that's really ambitious. So congratulations for that. But also, like, what kind of stories are you telling? Is it across the board, or do you have a certain niche or kind of genre that you like? Like, talk about kind of what you are making with your group that you're putting together.
I have an active mind. I'm a writer first and foremost, so I'm constantly writing, and producing wise, I try to at least a film a year. And I've done everything from horrors to thrillers, dramas, pretty much everything except for like sci-fi and action films, just because, you know, the budget. And that is the main reason why, because, you know, the VFX and just action stuff is just naturally a more expensive genre. So yeah, I went all across the board, but I'm starting to realize like now where my niche is in a way, what works for me and my company, and that's kind of leaning more toward the more drama based works, crime drama based works, and really the titles that focus on Black stories and African American community. I'm starting to find this where my niche is really strong, and those are my most successful films. And that's kind of where my company is starting to steer more on, trying to build more stories there. I kind of got this abbreviation like now for my films going forward is enlighten, impact, and entertain. So that's kind of like my focus now as I write and make stories that enlighten, impact, and entertain. And that's where like all of my success here lately is. So I've tested the waters, a lot of failures, but I'm starting to see a lot of fruits of success here lately on a lot of my film projects. And it's just one of those where if I didn't just put my foot in the fire and do it, like the data and the knowledge that I have now, I probably would never gotten, because a lot of filmmakers aren't really open with that. It's, a lot of people don't want to tell you the secrets and tell you what works and what you should do here and there. So I just, a lot of trial by fire, and I finally got a way that I feel like I have a strong foundation to put my company on and continue making films. And yeah, like I said, try to make at least one a year. Sometimes when I'm feeling ambitious, I can do 2, maybe 3. It's just, sky's the limit. It's just time is the only thing I'm struggling against.
Well, I know you have the company. Is this a full-time gig for you? Do you have like a day job and this is like a side hustle? Because that's another thing that, again, a lot of people, especially like LA and New York, they're working kind of a throwaway job. The stereotype of, the person works at the coffee shop. They're like, well, I'm really an actor. It's like, well, unfortunately, they kind of have to have those jobs that they can walk away from. Because if they do get a gig, they need to be able to be available like all of a sudden. It's kind of hard to have like a career job, because then if you get locked in, then like you might have a successful day job and that kind of takes over, and then you're trying to fit your art in like nights and weekends or holidays or whatever. And there's been success on kind of both sides of that. But I wanted to ask, you talked about like the company and like you started off with just you, your wife, and I think you said your brother. So where has the company grown, and how are you working it? Is it to the point, I mean, especially if you're making 2 or 3 movies a year, is this like a full-time thing? Like, how are you kind of mixing or blending the like day-to-day with the production stuff? Because, feature schedule's hard.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. And I still actually have a job at the moment, but like the way things are trending at, currently, like I could either go full-time filmmaking or, just still juggling, because my job is to the point where I'm blessed to have a job where it's lenient enough where I can still do my film works. I actually write scripts at work. Like, it's just one of those jobs where I'm able to do both and one not overlap the other, if that makes sense. So it doesn't get in the way, and it's still just mostly, as far as my company, just me and my wife, but I do outsource a lot. Just because I'm not at a point to where I can just hire someone full time. So I have a lot of freelancers and stuff that I work with often. So whenever I make a film, I have a guy who comes in who's my camera operator, a sound guy, a grip. I still have people who I can just call on at the drop of a dime. Hey, we're about to make a movie. What's your schedules? Let's get this and this time. And everything just works out together. So it's grown to get to that point, and hopefully the next step is I can hire those people to be up under me full time. That's the goal. That's the hope. But yeah, right now, baby steps, and we're starting to spread this company more than it was in 2016, when it was literally just me and my wife pulling our hair out doing every single thing. So yeah, I have a system that works perfect for me when it comes to scheduling and getting everything together, and so far it's just all worked out great. I've heard the horror stories from a lot of filmmakers, and unfortunately I've not had to deal with that yet. But yeah, just everything just seems to work seamlessly so far. And I don't know why. I don't know if that's just because we're so efficient at it or what, but yeah, everything's going great the way that we decided to make films.
Sorry to stop the show, but we've got some bills to pay around here, and to do that, I wanted to point out a couple things I've got on offer at shaneborza.com. As both a master level mental health coach and an award-winning filmmaker, I have the experience and expertise to help you go further faster, regardless of whether that is in your production or life. I am psyched to announce all my courses and books have been updated and expanded and are available on both Apple Books and at my shop. Especially wanted to point out my film notes book and workbook, where you can learn everything you need to make your film and get it out to the world. If you need help with either your life or film, please reach out. And now, back to the show. Well, first, that's great to hear. And secondly, just, shout out to like the partners, because a lot of us do need, whether it's a spouse or just like a production partner or whatever, there's usually somebody there, in the back office, especially when we're on set, who's coordinating all this stuff. Or if nothing else, we're saying like, hey, can you read the script? Does this make sense? We need that kind of outside perspective to help us. And like for me, that's my wife as well. Like she's my producing partner. So we do all this stuff together. And it's really great when you can have somebody like that. But I always like to make sure people know, a lot of times people are coming in, it's just like comic books, like every issue might be their first comic ever, so they kind of need to be able to jump in. So if someone's listening to this show, that's one big thing that is kind of different about film work, is quite often it is a gig economy and you are working job to job. It's not like I'm a camera guy. I went to cinematography school and I'm just working. You're like, no, every time the production wraps, you got to go find another gig.
Yes.
And that is kind of tough. And that's where things like when you get that collaboration, then it starts to become like, oh, you're on the roster. Like, that's my guy, and if they're not available, then you might have to find somebody else. But usually it's just that go-to person. So sounds like you're starting to build that and get into a place where you have those people like on call. Is that right?
Yes. And that's something that I had to find the hard way, because when I first started and attempted to, like my first movie, I didn't know how to edit. So, it was me and my brother. My brother, he had just graduated from Middle Tennessee State University here in animation. So he was kind of winging it on camera. We didn't know what we were doing, and finished our first project. And I found an editor and gave him my files. Didn't know anything about the business, paid him up front. And of course, that project never got edited. He moved away, never heard from him again. And so I ended up having to find a way to get that project edited. And I remember feeling so helpless at the time, like I felt screwed and didn't know what to do. So I started just learning these skills myself. So if that ever happened again, like somebody left me hanging, I know how to just jump in and as an indie production and just keep the boat going. And that's been my biggest strength, because over the years, I've found myself, hiring people or getting people to do this, and they just leave you hanging, because most of the time it's indie production, pay is not great, they can care less, so they would leave you hanging. And a lot of this was just me having to do it. So I'm starting to find people that I can trust and depend on, and in a way that kind of, I would say, people who are seeking opportunities or wanting to get behind crew, it's kind of a disadvantage to them, because I remember being left out to dry by these other people. So when I find somebody dependable, it's kind of hard to give somebody else a shot. But I usually tell them, like, if something happens here, I'll give you a call if that happens. But yeah, I have like my people that I know that I can trust and depend on. And they're usually my go-to whenever we shoot a movie, just because, I've been burned so many times. Like, once you find somebody dependable, somebody who does great work, you just want to hold on to them. So I've just been fortunate, because I've had productions where the lead didn't show up and we had to throw a makeup artist in there to get the film rolling. Like, it's been a lot of stuff, a lot of horror stories over the years that a lot of indie filmmakers, like when they talk about this and that, I'm like, yeah, I've experienced that too. I know exactly where you're coming from. So yeah, I finally got to a point to where I have a nice group of individuals that I can trust, and I usually just call them every time we make a movie.
This might be a good segue to get into some of those film notes. And quite often they're things that come from, wisdom and experience come from, unfortunately, sometimes living through or figuring out like a bad situation. And then we go, okay, well, now I know not to do that again. So, but, it can also be some good things, maybe we get mentored by somebody or we have a success, but regardless, especially because you have a lot of different hats, you're running the company, you're writing, directing and producing projects, you're doing a lot of things, but what might be a couple notes on either things like you wish you'd known that might be valuable for other people, or maybe just some advice that you might want to share with people from what you've learned thus far?
One of them would be, if you see a red flag, don't ignore it. A lot of times ahead of time, people will kind of give you a hint to what you can expect on the set or working with that person. If you have to constantly email a person for a reply, to something, you might want to steer clear from that person. Usually if somebody wants to work with you and eager to work with you, you know it. You shouldn't have to chase and beg constantly. People are busy, everybody has things going on in their lives, but you shouldn't constantly have to feel like you're trying to pull and prod for a response here and there or get them to do this and that. And a lot of that early on, being able to I've reached out to you about this maybe once or twice, and just cutting bait and moving on would save you a lot of headaches. So I would tell a new filmmaker, like, just look at the signs and people telling you what they are and listen to it. Don't give them, sometimes you can give the benefit of the doubt, but sometimes you have a business to run. So set deadlines, set hard deadlines, stand by those deadlines. If those deadlines aren't met, move on, and you'll save yourself a headache in the long run, especially when it comes to casting, crew, or anything in that manner. And always have contracts, some type of paperwork for location owners. Have something to protect your production, because I have a friend who completed an entire feature off of verbal agreements. And something ended up happening there, and all that work and time is down the drain. So just protect yourself, protect your cast members who are investing their time, crew members who are investing their time into your project, and you protect all of that by getting paperwork signed, agreement signed. Just don't, no matter friend or how long you've known a person, just do the right thing up front, and you won't have that worry later. And that'll be something I would tell any filmmaker that's starting. Just make sure you protect yourself, paying attention to the red flags and doing your paperwork.
And those are really important notes. And I can tell you for myself, like, unfortunately for me, it was a short film, but when I was in film school, one of my first projects, we didn't get releases. Mm-hmm. And one of the actors was like, I did not agree for you to put this out publicly. So, yeah. And I said, well, we, put all this time and effort into getting it done. Like, we're doing it so people could see it, and never heard back from them. So unfortunately, we aren't able to do anything with the project. So I can only imagine on a feature version of that. And unfortunately, some of this stuff, again, going back, like, it's show business. Yeah. And just like any other business, you sometimes have to say, okay, like, logistically, a lot of people, they just want to get on set. But as you know, as a producer, like, you got to dot those I's and cross those T's and make sure you have the budget and, make sure people know what time and get the contract and, all of the things. And that's part of that kind of industry education that I like to try to get for people. So on one hand, like you were talking about at the beginning, like, just get the camera and get out there and just make stuff. Because that's sometimes experience is the best teacher. It's an old adage. Yeah. But it's also important to be proactive and say, okay, I learned that I don't know what I'm doing. So how can I learn to do that? Yeah. And I wanted to just throw a spotlight on, we talked about a lot of the different things you're making. 10 feature films. I know some of them are a series. So I think you have like multiple films, like in a certain like title, or maybe some shows. But talk to me about where people can see your stuff, where they can contact you or follow you and see your work.
Yes, I have quite a bit of work out there. A lot of my much older stuff is on YouTube. I have a series called The Sticks, which is about a narcotics unit that I adapted into a film called The Sticks of the same name that we produced about 2 years ago. And I'm building this thing called the Sticks universe, which is ambitious idea. Just trying to instead of going the episodic route like I did with the web series, I'm doing it with movies. So it's kind of like Marvel Universe scaled down to where these characters, like the Sticks introduces these characters, but like they kind of branch off into their own films. So in the Sticks, there's a detective called Bobby Clark that semi-introduced for a short period. And we've released a movie called Cubic Zirconia, which is based on him and him working a case as well. So it's kind of like your crime drama. You have your narcotics unit, you have your detectives searching for, just regular crimes. And I'm just building my own works there. And I remade another movie, which is my very first film that I created in 2016 called Betray. And then I'm making like an anthology series off of it. And the first Betray, which was my most successful film to date. And then I just released one called Betray Thirst. And it's kind of just an anthology movie series that follows themes of infidelity, betrayal, and deceit. And that's starting to show to be some of my strongest content at the moment because it's just an audience for that niche. And just producing several projects. Like if you get online, you type my name, Jaron Lockridge, you kind of see a lot of my works out there. I have quite a bit of works on Amazon, Tubi, Roku, Plex, a lot of these platforms out there. And just wrapped up a feature this past weekend. So I'm just steadily working and making content. So yeah, you can find me on social media. Just search my name and I should pop up pretty easily because I kind of have a unique name.
And that's one of the reasons, and I mentioned this at the beginning. I mean, podcasts are great. I listen to podcasts all the time. You can drive, you can go to the gym, you can do stuff. But I always like to have people know that this is a YouTube show. I think it's important to be able to like see the person when they're talking, but also, when we're talking about film, like it's something you watch. You don't just listen to movies.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this as an audio podcast, go to the YouTube channel and check it out, because whether it's Jaron or anyone else, when they talk about a film, like I'm going to put the poster up, when they talk about the YouTube channel, you're going to see the screenshot. They'll have the link. Like it's very easy to see all these things if you watch the show. And that's what we want people to do, is watch our stuff. Now, you mentioned finishing up a film. So before we wrap up today, I want to ask you, like, what's coming up next? Like, obviously you just finished shooting that, but say between now, end of the year, or in the future, like what's on the horizon for you and the company?
This one that I just finished is called Cards and Cognac. Is about 4 friends getting together to vent over a game of cards in remembrance of a friend who passed away. So it's just one of those projects that I have yet to see about, just men talking about things out loud that, are so used to holding those things in. And I think it'll be a great project with a lot of relatable content. I have a series. I said once before that I would never do another series just because of the headaches with that, because of the scheduling, and you have to film everything out of order. So if you film something that happens in episode 9 at the beginning of the process, and then an actor or something comes unavailable, it kind of destroys the whole, series. So I kind of came up with a plan or process that I can kind of defeat some of the issues that I dealt with before. And I have a series that's coming up that's kind of like a political thriller. I kind of compare it to House of Cards mixed with Breaking Bad in a way. So it's something that I'm very excited about, and hopefully we plan to start shooting that here in the next month or so. But I'm just steadily busy. My writer's duet account is filled up with scripts. I'm just constantly writing, constantly producing, because I tell anybody, like, right now is the time. Like, why wait? If you can do it, if you have the ability to do it, you don't know what tomorrow brings. Just get out there and create and do what you love to do. And that's me. Like, I have this no wait attitude. Like, wait for what? If I can go out there and produce, I'm going to produce, because you don't know what tomorrow brings. So just constantly working, constantly producing, constantly marketing, just everything, trying to make just a full house production here, and hopefully, fortune and fame is not a goal of mine. I just want to make a living doing what I love, and that's making films.
Well, really great message there. And I really hope people get the takeaway there, which is, like, start today.
Yeah.
And that might mean you just start with sitting down and talking the story out to somebody.
Yeah.
That might mean you sit down and you start editing the footage. Some of these things can feel overwhelming. Like, oh my God, I just shot for 3 weeks. I don't want to do anything. Like, okay, start your break. Maybe that's the best thing to do so you can come back fresh. But start something, because a lot of these things, especially with the series, like you mentioned, like, these are big projects and take a long time, but we're never going to get to the point where they're out and we can experience the joy of, like, people saying, like, with what you said, like, hey, I made a project where guys are sitting around talking about stuff they don't usually talk about. Like, no one's going to see that unless you make it, and people are probably going to want to see it. So I hope everybody really hears that message, because we're not going to read your book if you never write it. We're not going to see your film if you never make it. So start today.
Yeah.
Check out these exclusive clips from Jaron's new film, Betray Thirst.
What are you doing here?
Why are you ignoring me? Okay, I've been calling and texting you for days.
Jada, you cannot do this. Okay, you can't just show up here like this.
Why are you ignoring me?
This is going too far. Look, Jada, we can't do this anymore.
What? Okay, did I do something wrong? Jamal, baby, just talk.
Stop! Stop. Look, Jada, what happened between us was a mistake. A mistake that will not happen again. Okay? I'm sorry. Now I need you to leave. And from this point forward, do not come back here again unless you have set up an appointment with Darren, your attorney.
So, Your Honor, respectfully, I feel with all of the evidence that has been provided, there's no reason for this case to move forward to a jury trial, and instead should be dismissed so as not to waste this court's time any further. Thank you.
Mr. Wiggins.
Your Honor, while it is true that my client was issued a citation for having no insurance and was not wearing her corrective lenses, something that she noticed rather quickly and was on her way back home to get when the accident occurred. Let me offer you an illustration. Now, I'm stopped at a red light. Now, I can arguably see well enough to drive because I stopped at it. The light turns green, which means go. Proceed in your lane of traffic, so you go as you're supposed to. And you are T-boned by an 18-wheeler, completely destroying your vehicle and earning you a 2-week stay in the hospital. Now, was my accident caused because I had no insurance? Was my accident caused because I proceeded into the intersection when allowed by the traffic signal? No. My accident was caused by the truck driver who tried to beat the light instead of applying the brakes when the light turned yellow. This is the fee for me to go ahead and get started on your case. I file the necessary paperwork and pursue the compensation or settlement that we both feel adequate. It's all outlined right here. You have any questions for me?
Hey baby, how you doing? Been so long.
Bro, don't you get tired of this?
Tired of what?
Shoot, I got my own marriage. Tired of being a mediator in theirs. She has been here for about 45 minutes. She had a consult with Darren on the schedule, but he is not answering the phone.
You are here about a case involving your husband?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more?
Cause I can't live without you no more, no more.
I got slept on.
You lying.
Well, lucky for me, he's not into all that.
So you don't do nothing for that man's birthday?
He don't require much.
Xavier, at least let him explain.
You can get out with him.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Baby, come back to me. Come back to me. Baby, come back to me. Come back. Cause I can't live without you.
Bro, everybody is waiting for us to fail. You are jeopardizing everything that we work for.
As long as you keep kicking that can down the road, one way or another, you're gonna have to deal with it.
Don't know what you got until it's gone. Until it's gone. Until it's gone. You don't know what you got until it's gone. Until it's gone. Until it's gone. Until it's gone. You don't know what you got until it's gone.
So really want to thank you for being here. It was great to learn more about, not only you and your company and like the projects you're doing, but also again, like the way you're getting things done. I thought there was a lot of great takeaways, and a lot of really good notes. So really thank you for sharing all that today.
Thank you for having me. I had fun today. I hope to come back one day.
Yeah, of course. And for everyone, like I mentioned earlier, this is a YouTube show. So go to the YouTube channel. You'll see the link on the screen. Watch the show so you can see all the projects that we're talking about and the socials and all the things. It is a podcast, so share that. That's an easy way too. And we'll see you all on the next episode.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support the show, please click on the link below. You can also contact me at my website if you have any questions about filmmaking or anything else. Off to the side, you'll see a couple of my books, Film Notes and the Film Notes Workbook. I encourage you to check those out if you'd like to learn more about filmmaking. See you in the next episode.
Scene 1, Apple, take 1.